What an unusual video. I am editing a writing advice article that I first wrote. When did I first write this? I know I first wrote it a long time ago. So, I was just rereading this and there are some weird things, so we're gonna go over it together. What is needed in a first chapter to really grab the attention of a reader? Based on my experience critiquing a heck of a lot of first chapters of people's writing on Wattpad, let's make that clear. I have a pretty good idea what a good first chapter can include. I have a pretty good idea, do I? Of what is good, make it more specific, engaging. An engaging first chapter can include. If you cover these, you probably have engaging first. I don't need to say that again, okay? Who is the main character? By the end of chapter 1, the reader must be able to answer most of these questions about your main character. What's their name? Doesn't have to be the full name. Not nickname only. I don't need to say that. Doesn't have to be the full name. Even just the first name is fine. Now, this thing about Ginger, this thing about Ginger, I'm not sure about Ginger, you know. I'm not talking about sexual orientation, just Ginger. Is this important? Sometimes, yes. Sometimes, no. I don't know. This, I don't know. Is it important to be able to know? Well, maybe. So what's their age or age range? If they're a teen or an adult or an elderly person? Yes. If I read your story, I'm expecting to be able to answer these questions based on the written text. In other words, I shouldn't have to ask you. I would suggest to focus on the first two. Age can be introduced in the second chapter, but no later. This could be my personal preference, but I'd like to know how the characters are. Wait, hold on. Other words, I shouldn't have to ask you. Age can be introduced in the second chapter, but no later. Age can be introduced in the second chapter. As my personal preference, I like to know how old the characters are, or at least have a pretty good sense in the first chapter, latest in the second chapter. I shouldn't have to ask you. As my personal preference, I like to know how old the characters are, or at least have a pretty good sense in the first chapter, latest in the second chapter. If I still don't know, by the third chapter, I'm going to continuously look for answers in the book and be half distracted about the missing information. Now, I don't need to say, but maybe that's just me. Their situation, the characters, situation. What is the situation that your character is in? In other words, don't be too mysterious and ambiguous. I would rather you not be too mysterious and ambiguous. It can backfire on you, and you can end up confusing your reader. That being said, in spite of that. I was just thinking in spite was one word, but it's not. It's two words. That being said, I have seen books with mysterious and ambiguous beginnings. I have seen books that have mysterious and ambiguous beginnings do well in spite of that feature. Yes. I'd want to know, are they in trouble? Are they having a good time with friends? Are they walking home? Did school just end? Are they about to go to work? Are they in a predicament? Maybe maybe they're just boring. Let's see the goose go by. Okay. Related to that, be clear what starts the story. This is a weird, I don't know, I don't need that. Maybe they're just born and haven't opened their eyes in 3 days. Goose Girl by Shannon Hale. Maybe what other books? What other books? What other books? What other books? Maybe they are going to buy an iPad and they are a grumpy man. A Man Called Uwe by Frederick Backman. Okay, grab with action. Okay. Don't have to write, like I talk. This could be subjective, as in my own personal preference. If I'm beginning a story and it starts off with some action. If I'm beginning reading a story, if I'm reading a story and it starts off with some action, I'm inclined to read beyond the first paragraph. Action can also include, no, not that. Dialogue can also be action. Action, as in because it is. As in because it is someone speaking. But the thing is, I don't mean just the action of your main character. Take Perdido Street Station by Chena Miéville. The first... Is there a... No, we don't have the E doing the thing. The first sentences in part 1 commissions begin, and then I give the quote. It's not about the main character, or any character for that matter, but it's an action. It's one that you can easily imagine. Okay. I'm reading a story in style set with some action that I can easily imagine. I'm inclined to read beyond the first paragraph. New book, new world, new characters. Nice to find something, find some easy to get into action. Easy to imagine. Easy to imagine. Maybe even relate to as a bonus. Dialogue can also be action, as in because it is someone speaking. Makes me want to know what is going on and who is speaking. I hope the who is clear. However, I don't know if I will get into a story if it's just a bunch of voices floating in a space. Let's write this out. Let's write I don't know out. Okay. It's action is one that you can easily, it was one that I can easily imagine. And I hope you can too. 2. A window opens and the basket flies from it. I'm already reading ahead and getting sucked into the story, wondering what on earth is going on. I think that's the key to a good hook in the first chapter. Make it something that anyone can easily imagine. Since it's an action, readers may be inclined to read on to see what. I think, yeah, I don't have to repeat. I already said that in the beginning. I don't have to repeat myself. That's the key to a good hook in the first chapter. To an engaging hook, you need to be more specific than saying good. Engaging hook in the first chapter. Sense of personality. From the first chapter, the character's personality should shine through a little bit. You want the reader. Don't you want the reader? Don't you? Not you want to. Don't you want the reader to follow this character for the next 30 plus chapters? It's good to make sure. It's good to show. It's not as good to make sure that you do this. It's good to show a glimpse of who they are. You don't have to get into details of backstory or you don't have to get into details of backstory. That will come later if you, but only if you want it to, and only if backstory is necessary to, only if backstory is backstory will Side note, don't give me your character's life history, has nothing to do with the plot. It has something to do with the plot. Don't info dump. Please. If it has something to do with the plot. New in the plot, and you must delve into the muddy depths. What is going on? The muddy depths of backstory. Don't info dump, please. I should write like info dump meaning with example. Tell me, is the character nice? Is the character nice? Are they mean? Do they care about their family? If they're joining the family for breakfast, for example, do they say good morning or just ignore everyone and start eating? Do their moods change all over the place? Perdido Street Station shows the two main characters being loving and affectionate toward each other. I got the sense that they really cared about each other and also supported each other in their individual endeavors. One was a sculptor and the other was a scientist. That being said, one of the characters definitely seemed rather stubborn, and he was worried about little things and worried about details, while the other seemed like she went with the flow and didn't worry about things too much. I should say here, to reflect the order, one was a scientist and the other was a sculptor, because the female was a sculptor. Okay. It wasn't a whole chapter or the entire, it wasn't the entirety of chapter 1. It was just enough in the beginning. Characters' personalities. Personalities. While it helps with the character. It is possible through through reading about the character's own thoughts about the world that their personality is possible through that readers can that world that readers can in a man called Ove grumbling about the world around him, everyone and everything is in a negative light. So I thought he was quite a cynical, unlikable character. That is his personality showing through his not thoughts, but his character's own perceptions about the world. Through his perceptions. Okay, now that we moved on from perceptions of the world to just the world itself. A sense of the world. Are you writing a textbook? No. Isn't textbook one word? Looks like. Don't overwhelm the readers with the textbook of your world or era. Gradually introduce the reader to the world. Didn't I already talk about this? Not really. I did. Mentioned info dump above. Info dump. Gradually introduce the reader to the world. You can start anywhere from a mundane, ordinary scene or from a spaceship. You can start from a messy closet or from a stage. You can start from a bump in the school hallway or from hands grazing the fur of a lion. You slowly ease into the world like a snail, peppering in world-building things. Building things like how magic works, if you have that. The caste system, if you have that. Not caste system, how about the hierarchies of the people, if you have that, and what people use to get around on, like cars or hoverboards or whatever. Is the sky even blue? But you need to, but it's best to do it as subtly, and that's not spelled right, subtly. Subtly. How is that not right? I am going to look that up. That isn't subtly a word, but it's best to do it subtly as possible as naturally as possible. All the while keeping in mind that the reader does not see what you see in your head. Remember, this is chapter 1. You have so many more chapters to really dive into the world, whether fantasy or non-fantasy. Keep it light, don't go too heavy. I'm sorry I can't give any detailed advice because it really depends on the plot of the story, how much info is needed in chapter 1. High fantasy might need more in chapter more in chapter 1 than low fantasy, for example. Make sure to get plenty of thoughts from people on the info of the world introduced in your first chapter if you get critiques or reviews on it. Make sure to not go by one person, but at least 3 before you change something. I consider 3 to be a pretty good number. Hook end. Captain Hook appears at the end of the chapter and off to chapter 2. The ending of chapter 1, the last few paragraphs, should leave enough questions unanswered that readers will more likely read chapter 2. It doesn't have to be a massive, oh no, she might die type of dramatic cliffhanger. It can be very subtle. But not too subtle. You don't want your first chapter to read like a short story with a nice beginning, middle, and end. The reader won't feel like reading on. I wouldn't. I read a first chapter like that. If I feel satisfied at the end of chapter 1, what is going to make me read on? If you are Sophie Kinsella, Shannon Hay, or Catherine Doyle, I will read whatever you write and even read on after a satisfying first chapter. But if I've never read your books or don't know if I like your style, or maybe I'm better reading, you have to convince me or someone like me to read on. There's something worth it. Show that there's something worth it beyond this point. Hint at it. Maybe I'm itching to know. Maybe I'm itching to know if Sarah finally gets accepted into the school of her dreams. And that's not even that dramatic. That's not even that dramatic. Maybe I want to know if Stephen... Why is it still say of? Why did I make that mistake? Maybe I want to know if Stephen will call back so he and Tim can meet up after school. They have things to talk about. What things? Maybe there's something so intriguing about the colorful world and its colorful characters, and I can just feel that I'm only grazing the tippy top of the iceberg. Perdido Street Station was like that. I could tell there's so much more world to see, and I want to see it because already I've met a Capri woman who has a bug for a head. That was a shocker. She also had red skin. Extra, Perdido Street Station by Tina Miaville. If you're interested in Perdido Station, adult dystopian urban fantasy with cosmic horror elements, there's a lot of fascinating, detailed world-building characters to deeply connect with, agree with, disagree with, love, hate, species that give an Eldritch type of vibe because you can't even begin to understand them. It's got some science, fantasy, and sci-fi elements, unapologetically gritty, and ooh, it gets under your skin. No one in this story is safe. Highly recommend it. Can you tell? I loved how gritty and cool it was. Okay, so that is the end. I don't know what this is, but that can be there. Okay, I don't know why this is here. Related article. I don't think this needs to be here at all. Get rid of that. So that is a little bit better than what I had before. Let's capitalize the C just for giggles and shoes. I don't Hook and hook them at the end. Okay, so that is, I think this should be the same as the other stuff. Who is the main character? Character, situation, grab with action, sense of personality, a sense of the world. Hook them at the end. Is it not subtly, but subtly? Oh, that's how you spell it? Subtly. Subtly. Anyway. So that. Then I need to go to advanced. Where is it? Not there. Attributes? No. Dimensions? Nope. Post. Right. Here, this part is this. So that needs to go over here like that. Paying attention to the first chapters of books I've loved. Based on my experience critiquing heck of a lot of first chapters of people's writing on Wattpad, and which I did, I'm not lying, and paying attention to the first chapters of books I've loved. Okay, so this bit is here, there. And so, tips for writing fiction. Okay. And so, this is now, because it's now. And we will actually view, what are the other options? Status is draft. Save that for 1. And it's going to revert to draft. And then publish immediately. I'm going to just change this to better first chapter. And yeah, this is fine. This is fine. That one is fine. 6 elements for a better first chapter. So we will publish that. So that is the end of this video. Was that enjoyable to you? I am critiquing my own writing advice articles, I suppose. Anyway, hope you have a lovely rest of the day. What else do I say? Keep hydrated and check out my website, Foxwood Forest, which is foxwoodwrites.com. And that's it. Yep. Comment, subscribe, like, do the things and the stuff. And yep, the fox is out.